All right, we'll start with the ACC. We kind of have co-favorites. We'll start with Florida State. Florida State's win total is 9.5 this year. Head coach Mike Norvell, same coordinators as last year, Alex Atkins, Adam Fuller. DJ Uyunglele is the new quarterback there. Before we dive in deeper, Ashton, what do you think about him and just the Florida State team in general?
Okay, you can go multiple ways, and you could actually convince me either way on this. One, you could say that they're going to springboard off of last year's success, and they're going to, parlay an undefeated regular season last year and an ACC championship into all kinds of success this year. Or you could say that, the after effect of getting left out and snubbed, which we both highly disagreed with and felt it was very unfair. Maybe that feeling resonates throughout the offseason, and they come in and it kind of falls apart on them a little bit. Like you could convince me either way
Mm-hmm.
on that. That said, we're win totals. More than anything, we look at the schedule, we look at the games,
Mm.
we look at the sequence of those games. And they do get an extra week, because they actually start out playing week 0, August 24th. One of the earliest times I've ever seen a big time game, is August 24th. It's crazy how early we're starting this year
Right.
against Georgia Tech. I like Florida State. I think they get there. I do think that they can. I think that they will win the ACC. I like them to go over. I think it was right for you to bring them up first. They're the defending champ, and there's no one that I've seen in the ACC in my mind that can stick close with them. I know they have Clemson. I know they have Miami. I know they have Notre Dame, and I know they have Florida. I'm not dumb. I look at the schedule. I think Florida State's a good football team, and I think they win at least 2 of those games. So I think they do go 10-2 this year. I think they cover. And I think they're the favorite to win the ACC, and I think they should be.
We're in agreement on the over. I also have them going at least 10-2. I have gone back and forth in the ACC so often. I know we've mentioned this before this off season already. I I think Florida State is probably my favorite. If for no other reason than they get to play Clemson at home, which is
Right.
nice. Um, as far as the win totals, they also get to play Florida at home, which could be a sneaky tough game. Who
Yeah.
knows? Like Florida, I
Mhm.
don't think is terrible. They just have a ridiculous schedule, and we'll talk about that, eventually when we get to the SEC win totals. They do have to go to Miami and to Notre Dame. Obviously, the Notre Dame doesn't matter for ACC purposes as far as the conference title. Um, Miami, you just don't know. I mean, we'll get to them later. We'll talk about them later. I still would give Florida State an edge, even though that game's on the road. Maybe that's the one game every 5 years that Miami really turns up for at home, and it's like a lit environment. I don't. It's been a
Yeah.
while since that's happened.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, people always talk about the Notre Dame game when Notre Dame lost at Miami. That was in
Yeah.
2017. Like it's been a while. Like
Right.
this doesn't happen just real often. I like Florida State. We talked about DJU a little. Well, okay, I mentioned him by name. I think he's solid. You kind of know what you're getting out of DJ Uiagalelei at this point. He's not going to be a Heisman finalist for Florida State. He's probably a slight downgrade from what they've had the last 3 years. How long was Jordan Travis there? I don't. It's been a while.
Right.
Probably a slight downgrade, at least from last year. Um, but he is a safe floor. They have an excellent running back room. They got Roydell Williams from Alabama, Jalen Lucas from Indiana, who I watched some at Indiana and was a really fun player. Like he's just your typical little jitterbug speedster. Can run the ball, can catch it out of the backfield, can even line up in the slot, whatever. I think he'll be fun. They're actually pretty good at offensive line, which we've been waiting for a long time to say about Florida State, like maybe a decade by now. Um,
Yeah.
the receiver room is unproven but talented, if that's a fair way to put it. And then on defense, I think their front seven should be excellent. They got some good pass rushers. You've mentioned Pat Payton. He's the guy you really like. And their secondary has talent, but probably won't be quite as good as last year. Um, but yeah, that's enough
Okay.
for me. Ashton, go ahead. Like, what are the areas that you're excited about for this Florida State team specifically?
Okay. So, real quick on the schedule before we stop. There's a really difficult 3-week stretch in there where they're at Miami, home for North Carolina, and then they go on the road again to Notre Dame. That's all in 3 weeks, right? Like it's just bang, bang, bang. I understand the schedule. Like I mentioned it in when I first touched on the topic, but I do feel that the Florida State team, I think they've built a lot of depth there. Like I
Hmm.
think that they're more, they were more than just Keon Coleman last year.
Sure.
Like Keon Coleman, and Jordan Travis, like they were great, but they had it was more than just that. Is what I'm saying. I think the Georgia game was a little bit of an anomaly for Florida State as well. I think they were that I can't even imagine how deflated that they were, to go undefeated and to have that happen to you. So I'm not putting much stock into that. I think Florida State will be an entirely new football team.
Yeah.
I am the DJU stuff. I don't want to get too far in. Like, just so everyone knows, this is not something that I personally would bet on. I personally will not be betting the Florida State over. I would
Hmm.
take it over the under, but th- with DJU there and the schedule that they do have, there is a world where 8-4 is very possible. Like
Sure.
they're not even a bad team, but they go 8-4. So yeah, they have. I think that's about their floor though. Like with DJ, I think that that's probably their floor, and 11-1 is probably their ceiling. Um, yeah, so I'm giving them a slight nod to the over on a
Hmm.
scale of 1 to 10. 10 being really, really, convicted about a pick, and one being not caring at all. This is maybe a three. Like I'd say this
Hmm.
is a three. Um, yeah, I it's a little dangerous. It feels just a little bit dangerous. Like I said in the first part, you could kind of convince me either way, just because I don't know. Like I don't know how they actually will react. Like we can talk about how we think that they'll react, and they do have good depth, but we don't know for sure how they're going to react to the whole snub from last year. We've never seen that before. We don't know. There's no sample for us to go on off of an undefeated snub like that.
The one thing I will say is Florida State is maybe the one team that you trust more than any other to flawlessly integrate portal additions and a lot of portal additions, and it doesn't seem to hurt their team chemistry or anything. It seems like Norvell has built a really good culture, which is an overused buzzword, but it's important. Like he has built a good culture there. So
Yeah.
from that perspective, I could see them bouncing back well from that last year. Uh, if you're looking at the schedule, playing Notre Dame on the road in November is not going to be fun. Um, you would like to play them in September. But on the other hand, ending the season with Florida in November is probably going to be a good thing because Florida has an absolute meat grinder schedule, and they
Yes.
might have they might have checked out mentally from the season by that point. So some give and take there. You get to play Clemson at home again. Like if you had to pick which one of Clemson and Miami you wanted to play at home, you'd pick Clemson, I think. So it's tough. Like there's four tough games in the schedule. I'm with you. I think they go 10-2.